Ready to get the show on the road? All right. So my name is Ramsey Bulkley. I'm the Executive Director of Planning, Zoning, and Building for Palm Beach County. And just to give a little bit of background, put some things in perspective, PZB, as we call it, we have planning, zoning, building, code enforcement, contractor certification, and administration. All of that together in building, it's about 400 employees, so it's quite a big organization. But then when you spread it out throughout the county is so large that our code enforcement guys are responsible each for about 6,500 properties apiece. So as much as we want to be everywhere all the time, every day, it's a very tall order. So we try to be as efficient as we can to try protect you guys and make your community safe. We do have some key folks here from from PZB. We have the building director, code enforcement director, contractor certification folks, and I'll let them introduce themselves. And with that, you can always go online, get a hold of me, get a hold of any of these folks, and we'll have some business cards and any questions. I think we're gonna have Q&A at the end, and feel free to ask anything, and we'll try to answer as much as we can. Sometimes the questions get kind of technical, and we can't just answer them right on the fly, but we'll do the best we can. So with that, I'll pass it over to Dwayne Johnson.
Hello, everybody. How you doing? My name is Dwayne Johnson, and I am your Senior Code Enforcement Officer for Palm Beach County for this area. John Gennady is actually, and I know some of y'all know him, he's your Code Enforcement Officer. My background, I have a law enforcement background for over 20 years. Been in code enforcement with Palm Beach County since 2015. Left for a couple years, went to Martin County, and I came right back. So I'd like to take one moment and let the code manager introduce himself and the code director.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming. I always like to see people come to their community meetings because it's important that you have an interest in your community. You're our eyes and ears out there. So just you showing up shows us a lot that you really care, and we appreciate it. We're here working in the community to preserve property values for your all and to make sure, ensure life safety in the communities. My name is Rick Torrance. I'm the Code Enforcement Manager. If you have any issues, you can reach out to Dwayne Johnson or myself, and we'll make sure that your issues are addressed. I've been with code enforcement for 26 years, and I've worked in this community for a lot of years over the years. So welcome again, and thank you for coming. I'd like to introduce our Code Enforcement Director, Michelle Pagan.
Good morning, and thank you very much for welcoming us into your community. I am Michelle Pagan. I'm the Director of Code Enforcement for Palm Beach County. I am recently retired from the Town of Palm Beach Police Department after 28 years, 29 years total in law enforcement. I do recognize some people, and thank you for welcoming me this morning. I don't know where you're at, but again, thank you. And also, I'm very pleased at the turnout that has happened this morning. Specifically is because we do receive a lot of calls, we receive a lot of comments, complaints, things like that. And I'm pleased that you are all interested in communicating with us. And we're very pleased also here to work together with our building division and our contractor certification. So thank you again.
Hello, I'm Senior Field Investigator Jeremy Dennis. I'm with Contractor Certification. What our office does, we go after unlicensed contractor activity, enforce construction industry licensing laws. I've been with the county for about 8 years now, and prior to that, I was an investigator with the DBPR, handling condominium investigations. And thank you all for coming, and we hope that we'll be able to provide you some information. And with that being said, this is a fellow investigator, Mr. Mark Brown.
Yes, good morning. One of the field investigator, that is my supervisor right there, Mr. Jeremy Dennis. As you mentioned, we go after unlicensed contractors. And I've been with the county for a little over a year. But prior to that, I was with the Department of Business and Professional Regulation in condominium, investigating the board and such the like. Thanks.
Good morning. My name is Doug Wise. I'm the building official for Palm Beach County. I'm the division director for the building division. Some of you know me. I've been around this county in building departments for about 30 years now. So I've worked at probably 12 to 14 different departments. The latest is Palm Beach County. I've been with Palm Beach County about 10 years now. So, you know, we have about 200 of the 400 employees in the building department. And we're going to go over our activity and what we do, but the main thing to remember is we enforce state law and work for the county. So that's often a fun thing to do when the county plans and the laws conflict. Doesn't happen that often, but what we do is very rigidly controlled by state law. Thank you. Oh, I got two other people here. Is Afet there? Come on out here where they can see you, Mike. This is Michael Gogger. He's the latest addition to our division. He's a coordinator that works over my licensed people, so he's going to assist us dealing with training and certification issues. As you may know, it's hard to get good help right now in this country. There's not a lot of trained talent to replace those folks that are retired. So that's what we're dealing. Where's the FET? Is she around? Wave. So this is Afet McIntosh. She's the bookend on Michael. She works on the clerical people in the building division. So either one of those, if you have an issue, reach out to them. If you can't get a hold of me, and they'll track me down, and we'll solve whatever issue you've got. Thank you.
Do the presentation. Start.
Don, did you want to do your introduction?
Ladies and gentlemen, as he's coming on up, I just would like to do some quick little housekeeping. We believe in communication. Education is going to resolve a lot of issues or answer a lot of your questions and maybe bring some new ones to light. What we ask is that you please refrain from asking questions until after the presentations. All the people here present will be here afterwards that can speak with you, and on one-on-one, we'll also have our business cards, we'll have our phone numbers and our emails, addresses listed on the slides, so you could, if you kindly write them down, or like I said, we'll have paperwork as well for you, and there's handouts. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. Thank you all for coming. Can you hear me? I'll pull it out. All right. With the question and answers, I think for this one, Carol and I will run around with the mic, so you don't have to march up here. I want to thank all of you for coming today. It's no surprise to me that the vast majority of Century Village unit owners care about their homes and their community, and your presence here is proof of that. Sorry, I got to check my note. Today, your county staff is here to inform you and to help you with a growing problem here at Century Village, which is unpermitted, unauthorized, and unsafe work that's being done. They're here to help you. They're not here to hammer you, all right? Before I turn this meeting back over to the county staff, I just want to make one remark. These people are here to keep your home safe and to make sure that any construction that's done is done safely and according to county code and by qualified tradesmen. They're not here to enforce your condominium bylaws or your rules and regulations. That's the jobs of your boards and their property managers and their attorneys. Sometime in the future, I hope to have another meeting where we'll bring in maybe a condo attorney and some insurance professionals who can help you with the administrative side of condominium construction. Directors and staff, I want to thank you all personally for coming today, and I'm going to leave this meeting to them. You'll see me later when I'm running around huffing and puffing, all right? Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Okay. Just real quick, we got another introduction. Greg Weiss's assistant, Niels Heinrich, is here. I just wanted you guys to see him. If you had any questions or anything, you can speak with him also. All right, we're going to start the slides. Code enforcement's going to go first, then we're going to do contract cert, and then the building department. And again, as stated earlier, just hold your questions till the end and we'll answer all of them. Thank you. All right, my name is Dwayne Johnson. I'm a Senior Code Enforcement Officer for Palm Beach County Code Enforcement. Our job here, or our mission here, is to uniformly and consistently enforce Palm Beach County code ordinances, land development regulations, and to promote and protect health, safety, welfare, and quality of life for the residents, businesses, and tourists of Palm Beach County. Our vision statement, of where we see ourselves, to maintain our neighborhoods and communities' quality of life, to enforce all land development regulations and all county ordinances in a timely and equitable manner, to serve the public professionally with integrity and respect. So what do we do as Palm Beach County Code Enforcement Officers? We investigate and enforce civil and non-civil code actions or violations in the unincorporated Palm Beach County area. Code violations may be broken down into 6 different types of code violations or categories. One is housing or property maintenance violations. The other is our Florida Building Code violations. Unified Land Development Code, which regulates our uses and what we're able to do on properties. Business tax receipts, and Florida Fire Prevention Code, and Palm Beach County Code of Ordinances. Condominium code violations. You know, me and John both have worked Century Village now for several years, and we've seen a lot of unique things that are just dedicated to this community. And we're going to go over some of them, and I'm going to show you some photos and a few things, and the reason why we make such a big deal out of this, because, you know, you got to understand that you guys are living amongst one another in multifamily situations. What one individual does inherently can cause an issue with your neighbors upstairs, downstairs, or even next door to you. So some of the normal ones: unpermitted interior renovations. We get that a lot here. You know, I know some of you probably have experienced that. Exterior and interior structure disrepair to include all your common areas. Insect or vermin infestation and extermination. Damaged or spalling to concrete, walkways, structures, and railings. Inoperative, unlicensed, or derelict vehicles left in the parking lots. We get, and this is no joke, we get 40 of those, 30 of those a month, I would imagine. And and an officer goes out and checks each one of them, and it is a violation, and we do require you to have a tag on your vehicle. You know, that's up to date. Any unsanitary conditions, and then we deal with pool maintenance requirements and water clarity. These are just a few things, but these are pretty much the main things that we deal with within the Century Village properties. So as stated before, the first one is unpermitted interior renovations. Removal of structural walls. It's important that each of you that are planning to do renovations to your property, that you engage an engineer or an architect. Have them come in and determine whether or not these walls are structural or not. Get your drawings done. Determine what needs to be done prior to doing it. You know, we've had situations here, as you can see, where we've had to run in and shore these walls up because the guy upstairs or the people upstairs are sinking into the floor below them. More unpermitted work, removal of walls. Looks like they're adding a drop ceiling because the new thing is the can lighting that everybody wants to put in their house. Same thing here. Exterior structure in disrepair. If you guys see this kind of stuff, call it into code enforcement. Let us know. These items need to be addressed. Insects and vermin infestation and stuff like that. We have one situation that I know of right now that we're working on in here where there was termite damage, you know, and they didn't know it until the guy opened up the wall. We had a guy do it without a permit, open up the wall, and sure enough, here we have termite damage on it, and everything's on hold for that. So Inoperable, unlicensed, or derelict vehicles. If these are photographs from your parking lots, okay? You have to have a tag on a vehicle. All right, the tag has to be current. It can't be out of date. We do have a program where we can check to see if your tag is out of date and who it belongs to. And generally, how we deal with that is we end up citing the property owner or whoever owns the vehicle, but at the same time, we have to send notification to that HOA or that condo association there because technically they own that common area. So generally, you guys will get these violations, and then it's up to you guys to get your individuals back into shape here. We haven't had many issues. I think we've had, what, one car maybe that we haven't been able to get tagged or moved? Probably one? We have many of them total. Yeah, okay. So permits are required. A permit is required to complete interior renovations, which include any electrical upgrades, adding or moving outlets, lighting, removal of walls, plumbing upgrades, adding or removing plumbing lines, installing of AC units, such as the new thing now is to throw a mini split in where you guys have the wall. It's almost like a window unit in the wall, but they'll take and they'll put a mini split system in. That's going to require a permit for that. Installation of washer and dryers with outlets and water supplies where it was never intended to be there. We've come into a couple of those where the building is just so old that the wiring and the plumbing just doesn't handle that much. New installations of dishwashers that aren't pre-existing also. That would require, because it requires a dedicated outlet for it. And whenever it comes down to licensed contractors, we're going to have, I'm about to introduce contract certifications, but I want to say this here. When hiring a contractor, check to see if they're certified through the state. You can get on the Department of Professional Business and Regulations, and like I said, contract certification is going to talk more about this, but to find out if they have a license or not. Prior to starting work, you must have a permit on site. So you can't start your project until it's already been pre-approved through the building department. And we suggest, and I don't know if it's in your bylaws or what have you, but this permit needs to be displayed so that whenever an inspector comes by or a code enforcement officer comes by, they can see that work's going on and what the work is. We recommend hanging it in the window. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to Jeremy with contract certifications, and give us just a second to get his show up.
Thank you very much, Dwayne. Like I mentioned before, I'm Jeremy Dennis, Senior Field Investigator, and myself and investigator Mark Brown will be discussing about what we do over in contractor certification. We work in conjunction with code enforcement as well as building. Now, our mission statement is to promote a safe and healthy environment through a contractor certification, regulation, and enforcement program, minimizing losses to citizens by unlawful contractor activities. Purpose is to regulate contractors doing work in Palm Beach County through a contractor certification program, to protect the citizens by ensuring contractors have technical skills and business stability and knowledge to perform the work they are hired to perform, and to prosecute any unlawful contractor activities in order to minimize monetary and emotional impact on the citizens and the industry.
Once again, I'm Mark Brown, one of the field investigators. And as Jeremy mentioned earlier, that we do contractor certification. We regulate the industry, and what is required, what is actually required to be licensed as a contractor. You have to do a background check, review both your years of experience and check for your criminal history. We do credit checks to make sure that you have a certain credit score before you can be eligible to get a license. Do competency tests, as in business tests and trade tests, and must get a score of over 75% or more. Also, you must have proper insurance, liability, bond, and workers' comp. Okay, so these are some of the trades that we regulate. Palm Beach County, Palm Beach County Contractors Construction Industrial Licensing Board and Construction Certification Division, we regulate 49 different construction trade. And these are such as you're seeing there, general contracting, electrical, plumbing, HERV, which is heat, air conditioning, refrigeration, and ventilation, and residential. And also we have some additional trades, and we have some handout here that we can give to whom may need some of these handouts as to what we are showing here, as in the additional trades that we regulate. So, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but just to mention a few, we have countertop, demolition, drywall, fabric awning, fencing, insulation, painting. And I'm talking about painting. I do believe that come next year, there's going to be some changes to some of these regulated trades that may no longer require a license, and painting may be one of those. We also do regulate roofing, seal, coating, and doors, and such the like. So as you can see, the different trades there. So now I'll move it back to Jeremy.
All right, and this portion of our presentation, we're going to go over and share with you a few of our cases that we've had. Maybe just to give you a little sense of what it is that we're dealing with and some of the victims involved and how this is actually pretty serious. This is an actual case we had. An unlicensed contractor performed some work in 3 different unit owners to do trades requiring licenses in 3 units. Some of those trades involved demo, drywall, carpentry finish, countertops, electrical, HARV, painting, plumbing, tile. Now, the contracts that this unlicensed contractor engaged with these victims, and that's what we see these people as, the unit owners, ranged from $11,000, $35,000, and $63,000. Yes. And one of those contracts involved a board member. And now this wasn't in this community, but we have jurisdiction throughout the entire county, and we get called out to some of these, and this is just an example. Now, what transpired in this case, a stop work order was issued by the building official, and for not having the required building permits. Later discovered during the course of this investigation, the state licensed contractors pulled the permits for this unlicensed contractor. That's a no-no. You can't be doing that. The unlicensed contractor was issued by our office 23 citations with a total of $11,500 in fines. I know that seems minimal compared to what the contracts that they engage with the victims, but this kind of gives that unlicensed contractor a check in what's going on. And if we've ever caught them before, we ratchet up those fines and we may refer it over to law enforcement. Now, state contractor, we referred to DBPR for aiding and abetting, and DBPR, they'll take that very seriously. Okay, another example of a case. This one happened to be in Highland Beach. Building official referred one over to us. They flagged a permit where The unlicensed contractor inappropriately used a license of a former employer of his, trying to pull a permit. We issued 3 citations for $500 apiece, totaling $1,500 in fines, and 2 citations to the county license contractor who was a part of this and aiding and abetting. So, and down below, we got a written statement from the contractor that acknowledged, no, I had nothing to do with this. This guy's a former employee of mine that was misusing my license. So this is a little bit of what we do, and I just want to say, the previous slide, here's some of the pictures. Up at the top, you can see a stop work order. So this is, these are people's homes that was really affected by unlicensed contractors. And next, I'm going to turn it back to Mark to share with you some others.
Okay, so this is a situation where you have the homeowner decide to get a proposal from both a licensed contractor and an unlicensed contractor. On the left, you can see the homeowner receive a proposal from a general contractor. The contract price was a little over $12,000. And we do our research, and we normally check Sunbase and such alike, and you can see where this contractor was current, active. On the right, this is the unlicensed contractor. And many times, folks would believe that the unlicensed contractor would give a lower bid, but in this case, that's not the case. The unlicensed contractor actually gave a higher bid, and which would make it appears that he or she would do a better job than the general contractor, the actual licensed contractor. And as part of that, what the unlicensed contractor put in the contract to say that if I don't complete this contract on time, you can reduce the amount by $100 per day. That is to encourage the homeowner to say, hey, and give me that, give me, let me be the person to go ahead and get that project. And these are the things that we try to let folks know, that, as mentioned, that you must always check to verify if either contractors or whomever it is that they are licensed. You can check on our portal to make sure that that is the case. So you don't, the contractor, you don't get in trouble with code. Because what happened in many instances, we work alongside with code, and we would go and we determine that the unlicensed guy or whomever it is doing a project for you, and many times they end up doing a bad job, and you come to us and you complain, and we have to do a referral to code, and you get in trouble with code. Okay, the next one is, this is a case where a licensed contractor, he's a painter. He paid for his license. He has to keep up his license, and it cost him. And then he happened to be driving by, and he saw this truck with a sign that's advertising for painting. And he determined that this person is unlicensed, so he filed a complaint with us. And the allegation says that advertising painting trade without holding a PBC license to do so. The division contacted the unlicensed contractor, and a meeting was arranged. And that's what we try to get the unlicensed personnel in the office, not just to issue citation, but to provide education, and also to allow them the opportunity to do the right thing and become licensed. And during the meeting, a citation of $500 was issued to this person for this violation. Now, this is another case where an unlicensed contractor advertised, contracted, performed electrical work to a single family home that required electrical contractor license. New homeowners, and this is a case where a new homeowner had an inspection done to identified numerous violations. Now, this homeowner buy this home and suspectingly that all these unlicensed activity went on before the purchase of the home. And the seller contracted, meaning that the seller contracted with unlicensed contractor for over $3,000 to make electrical repairs. Can you imagine having your home worked on by an unlicensed contractor for electric? Isn't that crazy? Repairs include GIF outlets, electrical outlets throughout house, doorbells, replace transformer on ceiling fans, secure wiring in electrical panel, repair wiring in the attic, inspect electrical fixtures, upgrade fuse panel, repair all open splices in garage by installing junction boxes, install smoke alarms, repair electrical outlets and conduit in backyard by pool. Unlicensed contractor advertised by using and not only that, this unlicensed electrical contractor was using someone else's license number. And that is some of the catches where they will, what you need to do, not only just to verify that the person's license, you want to make sure that this person, it matches up. The name, the company, everything match with this license. If you're not sure, please call us because we are the expert on this. Unlicensed contractor was issued citations of totaling $2,000 for this. The next one is Mr. Superman. Unlicensed, they call unlicensed, we have unlicensed Martin, call himself the Hurricane Man, as in Superman. We received a complaint back in 2019, for unlicensed trade, general contracting, hurricane shutters, fence, windows and doors, screen repairs. Those are the things that this person was caught doing. And some of the things we look at in this particular case is we look at the contract, and normally the contract would outline what and what they would do. Like, for example, this week, well, I issued a guy 7 citations, and he called me yesterday, and he said to me, but I am working with a licensed contractor. But I said, however, when I checked your company or checked you out, when I review everything that needs to be done, you're not showing as being qualified by that contractor. So I issued him 7 citations for providing a contract which details 7 different trades. So in this case, we use the contract. We checked out advertisement on this person and issued a citation on that. And also we use proof of payment because normally the homeowner would make a down payment. Now, what we like to tell the homeowners is that in all cases, do not pay cash. Never use cash. Because if there's anything to be investigated, it's going to be difficult for us to investigate, to follow the cash. We can follow paper. We have to have paper trails. Canceled check, the contract they give to you, an invoice, and such the like. Oh, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to now show you some of the citations, a sample of the citations that we issued to these unlicensed contractors. And as you can see there, so just to take a look at, can you read? Can you read it clearly? How can we get this bigger? Yeah, but anyway, they keep us busy. And I'm pretty sure when we're done with this seminar or meeting, you're going to even make us a little bit more busier. So back to Jeremy.
Thank you, Mark. Mark is truly one of our rock stars on our team. And and as you heard before, you guys are our eyes and ears out there. And there's plenty of ways that these unlicensed contractors advertise to get your attention. And I've seen it before when I was just an investigator. I'd come to this community, I looked to the bulletin boards and find business cards posted on there that were unlicensed contractors, all right? Not only that, these ones are brazen. Mr. Paverman, he had a humongous billboard sign down there in Delray Beach. We got him with that. The excuse was, well, I thought I was still in Broward. He had a Broward's license on there, not a Palm Beach County one. We got him. He took it down the very next day. But these are flyers. These are business cards, billboards, magnetic signs on the vehicle. If they're advertising, they need to have either that state license or that county license, and it needs to be current. Our website has a database where you can check and verify yourself. If you're unsure and you're about to hire the contractor, give us a call. That's what we're here for. So here's some examples. As you can see, some of the trades that they're offering that we regulate, and whether or not they have the right license number on there, you can check it, or we can check it too, and give us a call if you have any questions. Here's our telephone number, our email address. We have a few flyers up at the front, and we'll have some business cards here for you too. Thank you all very much, and who am I handing this off to? Thank you.
Doug, I think.
I'll take a remote control if you have it.
Yes, sir.
No, not yet. Thank you, sir. It's got the laser too. Is it on?
Okay, up next is going to be the Palm Beach County building official, Doug Weiss.
Okay, a couple things I want to add to what they said there. One of the things that we get a lot in Century Village is water heater replacements. You need to make sure you get a permit on that in a multifamily unit. One of the things we've run into, people want to put in Insta-Hots, and we like Insta-Hots, and that's great, but some of the things we run into is the finite electrical service capacity in some of these buildings. Based on the age of the units, there is aluminum wiring in a lot of these units, the feeders coming from FPL, so there's limited service. So anyone that's run into that knows what I'm talking about. If they went and put a Insta-Hot, it was very challenging to get it permitted, and it detrimentally impacted everybody else. Okay, so what does a building division do? This is what we do. We enforce the Florida Building Code. It's life and property safety. Our mission statement is on the back of every business card in the division, and it says ensuring property and life safety in the built environment. That's what we do. It is a Florida law. I don't make it up. I don't get to change it. I can weigh in on provisions to change it, and we'll talk a little bit about some changes that are coming at the end. But we did have a lot of stuff that came out of this last legislative cycle. One that may be interested in is high-rise construction. We're all licensed under 468. I have a team of about 70 inspectors that are licensed that work for me. I also have another 40 plans examiners. We have about 60 trucks in the field every day. We also have contracts where we're using another 25 to 30 contract employees every day to basically meet the demand for services. And I know everybody complains, why is it taking so long to get my permit? And everybody in this room lives in a condominium, so your permit has to not just go through my people, but it has to go through the fire department, because you're also regulated by the fire marshal. So We participate actively in code development, the regulations we enforce. And here's where it says in the law that I have to do this. The county has no choice. The county is obligated under state law to do this and give people permits. We can't be employed without possessing a license. One of the things I like to show my boss all the time when we get in an argument, who's over there sometimes, we don't argue that much. I have great respect for Mr. Bulkley. But, you know, sometimes that I have to do it without interference from any person. And I can't see, I don't know where the laser pointer is, but basically if you look at the bottom of the first paragraph, that's what it says. And then the plans examiners and the inspectors have to do exactly what I tell them because I'm a licensed person. So if he goes and gets a license, then guess what? And that's the hard part is, I tell him that you can fire me, but you can't make me do it. But if he goes and gets a license, I guess he can. Here's what we do. 2021, we did about $2.4 billion worth of improvements, so we're very busy. Everybody wonders, well, why didn't you see that? Well, we don't have a lot of time to look at your plans. We're doing the best we can to get them gross technical violations, make sure everybody's safe. But, I mean, you look at the growth from 2012 up to today, number of permits, we're over 82,000. And then we look at the value of improvements, $2.4 billion. Here's what happened last year. The average was 6,800 permits and 11,300 reviews per month. I mean, you think about those numbers, we are like riding the whirlwind right now. Palm Beach County is growing, and I mean, you see it when you drive around here, you see all the new construction. There's new buildings going across Okeechobee Boulevard by the Turnpike. There's stuff going everywhere. We're building ALFs, we're building hotels, we're building plazas, you name it. So you look at the numbers. Sorry, too fast. So we performed almost 200,000 inspections last year. You look at what the inspections are per month. Looks like November was a slow month, but we did 21,000 in March. And again, this is fiscal year 2021-22. And then broken down by trade. Year-over-year comparisons between 21, 22. I'm sorry I don't have the June numbers up there, but it's down a little bit in 22, and that is the signs, and I'll tell you I would welcome that because we are struggling to fill staff positions and to make sure there's enough people. I will admit that customer service has dropped. We're not able to provide you the customer service that we would like to provide just because we are so overworked. We deal with unsafe buildings. We've condemned a number of buildings here. There are currently 2 that are under condemnation. I think Jeremy showed pictures of them earlier, or code enforcement did, maybe Dwayne did. We also handle appeals when people, want to argue, say, Doug, you're wrong. You interpreted the code improperly, or we don't agree with your interpretation. So they can do CBAA appeals, Construction Board of Adjustments and Appeals. We also do Flood Damage Prevention Board. So if you're in a floodplain and you question the regulations, you can do an appeal to them. And we also do disciplinary action against state licensed contractors. That's the Local Construction Regulation Board. And that allows us to take a contractor to task. Usually, contractor certification is involved in that, and they assist us on that. But basically, where we can suspend their permit pulling privileges. We have, in the time that I've worked for the county, we have had a total revocation of at least one general contractor who harmed. You may have remember a few years back, he harmed literally hundreds of residents with screen enclosures that were substandard, where he fraudulently altered mastered plans that were approved by the state. So we do that too. We also deal with, if you've got a roofing contractor or somebody, and if UCO or the association for the building comes to us and you're victimized by somebody, if they're a state licensed contractor, they committed willful code violation or fraud, we can take those cases forward. And then BCAB also is our advisory board. They work in an advisory role to Palm Beach County Commission, and they help us develop our amendments to Chapter 1. We do have local amendments, and what those do is they give us administrative tools so we can do, enforce the code, tell us how we're going to enforce it. We can set certain thresholds, and we have those options that come from the state. We do continuing education. We host them at the Vista Center. We also use other county facilities from time to host continuing education for contractors. We believe firmly that education and outreach is critical to make sure that our residents, that our contractors, and everybody knows what's expected. I'm a state licensed general contractor. I've been in this business in Palm Beach County for like 30 years, and all I ever wanted to know when I was on the other side of the counter is what's expected of me. And I think that's a reasonable expectation. But the other thing is, I think we need to communicate those expectations very, very well. Success is hard to prove in my business because I go to Ramsey and say, look, nothing happened. We did a great job. Nothing happened. What do I mean by that? I mean nothing collapsed. Nothing caught fire. Nobody died. That's my job, to make sure nobody dies. Unfortunately, it does happen. We had a car run into a building this week where we were called out, and it was sticking out of the building halfway up the wall. And there was a person on the inside of that wall that was, basically mortally injured. I don't know if I'm trying to find out if they lived or not, but they were trauma-hawked to the hospital. So, it's ugly stuff that we get involved in when buildings fail. We all know what happened at Surfside. So again, we're only successful when nothing bad happens. Life safety risks, unfunded mandates. Don't get me started about that. We get stuff coming down the pipeline from the legislature in Tallahassee. You guys have it too. If you have any high rises here, we all know about the issue with the ELSS systems that have to go into the high-rise buildings. Maybe you guys haven't been involved in that. Staffing challenges with stringent licensing. Preemption. There's been a lot of preemption lately saying you can't do that. What do I mean by that? Well, we have private provider law, which means any property owner, and by owner here that would mean the building association owner or the overall owner can hire their own inspector and pay them. Now, for me, that's a little bit ethically problematic. I've always accepted it, it's good, but the bad part about that is the legislature has said we can't audit them, and that's a problem. I'd like to be able to double check what they're doing is the right thing. So, because we had too much bad luck. We did audit some of them, and some of them are very good. Let me say that. They're people I worked with in the past, people I hired, I would hire today, but they're making too much money as private providers right now, so I can't compete. But I will tell you that the way the legislature has gone with limiting the number of audits that we do on private provider jobs, I think the pendulum's going to swing back. I think after Surfside, we'll see what happens. Oh, and the fees, they're trying to rush us on plan review, and look, we're doing the best we can. My fondest wish is to get your permit issued to you as quickly as possible, because that's when I get paid. So we don't get paid till we issue your permit. We're going as fast as we can, but the quality of plans that we're seeing today is not good. It's like everything else. The architects, the engineers, they're not as good as they always have been in the past. The quality of workmanship. And I think you could talk to any architect or engineer, they'd tell you the same thing. It's really hard to get good help. So, that's a problem. And there's special interest controls in the code development process now, where they are taking things out of the code that I think is wrong, that should be there to protect you. But, that's just Doug's talking out loud. That's not the county. And additional duties. So what happened? Senate Bill 4D. You guys know about the Surfside collapse. I don't need to go into the morbid details of that. But they passed legislation that is now on the books, went into effect as soon as the governor signed it. Basically, it mandates milestone inspections on all buildings 3 stories and higher. Okay, so you guys, when I say you guys, I mean UCO and or the condo associations for the the individual condominiums that have any buildings more than three or more stories have to turn in a list to DBPR before December 31st, 22, this year. So they have to have it by January 1, 23. So you guys have the first deliverable. How many are association leaders here? So you guys, you have to count how many three-story buildings you got in your control. Turn in that list to DBPR. If you have questions, you can reach out to me. Send me an email. I'll leave my business card out there. Please do not call because we get literally 1,000 calls a day. It's just unfortunate we cannot handle that. But if you do send me an email, we will respond. So what else? The milestone substantial structural determinations. You're going to have to get those on three-story buildings that are more than 30 years old or more than 25 years old if they're less than 3 miles from the coastline. You can use an engineer or architect right now, and I think that's the right answer, although my peers to the south in Dade and Broward don't agree with that. They want it to all be engineers. They want it all to be SIs. And what do I mean by SI? They mean special inspector. That's a special engineering credential for those that are, there may be some retired professionals here. So we have to send out a written notice as soon as we become aware of the buildings. So we did preemptively send out some notices last year just to let people know this was on the pipeline, in the pipeline coming their direction. And I don't know if any of you got those letters last year, but hopefully you're starting to look at that. You have options. You can get an architect or engineer. You'll have to study it. We're supposed to get the list from DBPR and send letters back to you to notify you. And I think that's a better answer than what they're doing in Dade and Broward. What they're doing down there is they're trying to mix the two different lists that they have. They had an ongoing 40-year list that they're working on, so some of those folks already had it. There was a meeting yesterday with the Florida Building Commission advisory TAC that is working on this, so it's going to come out in the next version of the Florida Code too. So we'll see some more changes maybe come down the pipeline. They've also directed, the legislature also directs the Florida Building Commission, the last bullet point, to come back to the governor and the legislature to give them observations on what needs to happen. So they're taking that real seriously. They spent a long time on the call yesterday. I wasn't able to sit in on all of it, but the committee that's working on it is trying to figure out, well, how far can they go? Because some of them want to go beyond the legislation. I think that may be dangerous, but I think what we've learned here, for example, in Century Village and in Kings Point and other places, is that we have to look at the balconies, we have to look at the railings, we have to look at the spalling concrete. It doesn't matter whether it's 3 stories or more. I think you saw some pictures early, that showed the spalling concrete. Those things got to get addressed, and people can be harmed if they're not. So, so that's the first deliverable. And that's all I have. Thank you. So we have a ton of brochures that we brought that are out on the table. We have business cards. Any questions about any of this stuff, please feel free to email us. Use the, yes, sir, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. What's that? I thought it's the end.
The only other thing I would say, use the portal. If you have a question about a contractor or a permit, if you're going to hire somebody, ask to see the permit. I can't tell you that enough. If you ask to see the permit and they show you a permit, if you have any doubts about the permit, you can email us and we will verify that they have a permit. If you ask to see a permit, all these people up here will have checked the insurance and the workers' comp and make sure that they've got the right credentials. You don't have to be an expert at that.
And one more thing I wanted to touch on, I see people are leaving, and it's important for you to know one of the important reasons why it's important that you hire a licensed contractor and get the building permit in hand prior to them starting any construction. God forbid, you spend $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 to get your kitchen remodeled, your bathroom remodeled, and you hired an unlicensed contractor who does not pull a permit. God forbid, a couple of years later, you have a massive plumbing leak or an electrical issue related to that construction. You call your insurance company, Geico, State Farm, or whoever. Well, I can tell you they're going to look for a reason not to pay your claim. So if they ask you, well, where's the permit for this work that you had done when your plumbing started leaking or your electrical went bad, they're going to be looking for a reason not to pay your claim, and you're going to be left holding the bag for what you forked out originally for all your construction and to repair it. And God forbid you're on the second floor, water leaks down into the residence below you, you're liable for that damage too. So that's very important why you should all know to get a permit, because the building department needs to inspect that work to make sure it was done properly.
Thank you, Rick. Okay. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to open it up for questions now. What I want the mic, if we could put the mic in the hall.
We're gonna run around and bring the mics. Okay, Carolyn's gonna be on this side. I'm gonna be on the
And
other.
we're going to answer one at a time in a timely manner.
All right, Carolyn, you're first.
That's a good part, Ramsey. That's a good part. Yeah.
I'll work my way up.
Yep, I think it's on. Hi, I work for a GC license in this state and in this county and with you guys. We have been trying to offer help to the building that is condemned, and we were willing to do it at cost to get 2 people back into their home. I have had no help from UCO, and I've had the runaround at the building department. I need somebody who would help us. I have an engineer and a contractor, both willing to volunteer time to help people get back in their home. He's also willing to help anybody who has started a project get the proper permits. Stop what you're doing and hire licensed people and get the proper permits. So who do I see to get some help?
All right.
I would be happy to help you with that, but I would tell you, without the owner's consent, because you're talking about structure, and I'm sorry, I'm looking for you, I don't know where you're at, but, oh, you're back here. Okay, without the owner's consent, I can't issue a permit. So if UCO's not consenting, or the HOA is not consenting, I can't really help you. But if they're consenting, then we just need the contractor just needs to submit an application with plans. Yeah.
No place to be found in New York. And UCO says it's not our problem.
I mean, that's the problem. You got an absentee, absentee owner. If you want to email me, I'll leave you a business card. You can email me. We can work on
Okay,
that.
good, because when the answer of our own association is, it's not our problem from UCO.
It's
I
what.
don't, UCO, they said to us.
Director,
not
I'll
their
take
problem.
this one. And as we said at the beginning, ma'am, this county staff is not here to enforce your condominium bylaws or your rules and regulations. You're a private condominium. You have a property manager, an attorney, and a board. This is something that has to be taken on your end. And I understand you have an absentee board. That's something that you're going to need to work with.
It's not mine. I live in a totally different unit.
I see.
We are trying to offer help to other people who live here amongst us.
Good deal.
No one's been able to help.
Okay. Ma'am, you come in and see us, see one of the VPs or me, and let's see if we can help you with this, okay? Obviously, you want to get bought. Go ahead, Mr. Coney.
Thank you. Thank you for coming here, gentlemen. I'm sure everybody appreciates you being here. And Don, I just wanted to, as long as we have Don and Yuko here, I just thought it might be advisable. You mentioned that there's going to be a meeting with the insurance and the attorneys before.
Yeah, I'm
Working on it. So, because I think it's important to have a standard draft letter so we don't have to spend the money in this time that we can send to everybody a notice that UCO will provide us, to all the associations, a letter regarding these issues that have been brought up about fixing. And the other thing also is, the way you had an insurance company, is it possible to consider an engineering company? Because the condominiums use one joint engineering company, because these are going to be phenomenal costs that we can bring into the village to do the buildings that are 3 structures or higher. Can it be one person that the UCO will provide everybody with, as a joint price?
Thank you, Mr. Koenig. This was something that would have to be brought up at a UCO meeting. And as I'm sure you understand, with 309 separate associations, I don't think we could all decide where to go to lunch, never mind who we're going to use for an engineer. But believe me, this has been attempted, so we'll definitely take it under consideration. Yes, ma'am, go ahead. Take it.
Hi, my name is Martha Ripp, and I've been a resident of Dover C for 17 years. I'm not here to question anything. I'm here to give you some information regarding a unit on 4th floor at 441 Dover C. I went up there to look to see if there was any permits in the window, and there was not a permit from the county. The only permit that was there was a Dover permit with no writing on it, no information of the person who owns the place, nothing. It was a blank paper. So I contacted my president by email, and I told her about it for her information. Her reply to me back by email was, "I'm aware of it." So I thought, okay, she knows about it, she's taken care of it. Well, I went back up there a couple days later, and still no county permit. Well, I happened to see the lady who I believe is in charge of a lot of construction in a lot of the condos, and I mentioned it to her. I said, "Where is the permit?" And she blew me off like I didn't know what I was talking about. So she just kind of, her attitude was not good. And she said there's a permit. It probably slipped down between the windows. Well, I went back up there, and there was no permit, just the blank Dover permit. So I took picture of her car with her license. I took a picture I didn't go in the building, or the room, but I did take a picture of the construction being going on. I took a picture of the truck who was doing work. So I'm following through with this because this has been going on a lot in the Dover buildings. And our president doesn't seem to be enforcing the requirements, I don't want to say rules, I don't like rules, requirements of our bill. She's done nothing about it. And so I want to make this known to everybody, what's going on in the Dover buildings. And our president, I don't mean to be bad-mouthing her, but I gotta let it know that she is not respecting the wishes of the residents. Just a minute, I want to finish what I'm saying. Well, I just want to let you know, I've got pictures. If you want them, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let me answer that for you. Anytime anybody can call code enforcement and file a complaint. There is new regulation out there. It requires you to leave your name and address to file the complaint. So, like I said, we have business cards out front. All you have to do is call me. I'll take the complaint from you. I'd prefer that because this could be unlicensed contractor work. Right now, I have a code officer who's dedicated solely to Century Village right now, which is John Gennady. A lot of y'all know him. He's pretty dedicated to this area, so if you can get one of his cards or my card, and if you see this going on, all you have to do is call us. Generally, we can get there within a day or while it's actually going on. So.
Okay, before we go to the next question, I just want to remind the audience again, we just heard what basically amounts to an internal condominium and association issue. We're going to basically deal here today with code and contractor certification and buildings. So we're not here to tell tales about our neighbors or this and that. If there's something you need to report to the county, go ahead and report it. There's the fellows right there to do it to. All right? Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, my question is this, Palm Beach County, I saw a brochure maybe about 2 or 3 years ago, and it said that before, as the permit is being submitted, that you required an approval letter from the board of directors during the permitting process. I'd like to find out if that is still going on, or you stopped doing that. And if you're not doing that, my recommendation would be that that be restored so that we can curtail some of this illegal construction.
I can answer that question. Florida law is very specific. We cannot require HOA approval for improvements to real property unless the improvements are to HOA property. So if it's to the structure itself, like, you know, the exterior walls, you know, et cetera, stairwells, those kind of things, yes, we will require HOA approval. But if it's the interior of a unit in a condominium, we cannot require that. But every permit that we have, and I brought some samples that I can share with you, says that the conditions of the permit are the applicant is responsible to get approval from the HOA. It says right on it.
Okay. Okay, next question.
Good morning. My problem is I had a unit upstairs from me that had a complete renovation, and they cracked my ceilings and walls. And we've written many letters to them, certified letters. I can't get any help. They put an illegal washer and dryer. Code enforcement told them they couldn't do it. They had to take it out. They reboarded it up, and they put it back in. It leaked into my closet, $2,400 in damage. And I just want to, how do I get them to help fix my ceilings and walls? We can't sue because we already have a lawsuit for mold.
You can report it either to
I
code-
have to my friend John Gennady
Okay, well,
many times. I call him and I say, it's me.
John, you want to comment?
Darling, where are you? Darling, come out.
Now you've done it, John.
I
guess I can't.
I
hide
don't
any
bite that
longer.
hard.
Yeah,
You know, we've talked.
yes. And the issue with these are that we can write the violation if we are able to get in and.
And you haven't been able to because they're from New York. I'm not gonna go to
Oh
small
my,
claims court
we won't
because,
say.
well, I'm not going to small claims court because they're from New York. I know I'm not gonna get anywhere.
Right. And we
It's
know
an
that
association problem.
once, well, it's, from our end,
Mm-hmm.
the issue is going to be entry into the unit.
I know.
You know, and we've spoken many
We have.
times. You cannot get inside a private unit because if you put yourself in their shoes, if you were told on by somebody, you had an issue, we can't just walk into your unit. We have to have approval. Otherwise, we're trespassing. We cannot do that.
Right, and they've changed the locks on the door.
Correct. So they're going to find ways to avoid having us enter if they know they're doing something wrong.
Right.
Your only other option at that point, unless Doug has other steps.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is if it's an egregious violation is perceived and the risk is high on a multifamily building, we can go to a judge and request an inspection warrant. That is an expensive process, and I would tell you it is fraught with risk because if it turns out what is being alleged is not true, and I'm not saying it's not. I have no knowledge, but it gets problematic. So, but
It's been a year and a half, so now I have to prove it. I have to prove it. And he told me.
we have to see it, I think is what John's trying to say. But if you email me, we'll figure out if there's something that can be
I'll
done.
get a card.
Yes.
And let me just dovetail into that. We have to follow laws. Doug's got to follow laws. Co's got to follow laws. We all got to follow laws in order to be successful. Sometimes we'd love it if we could just walk in and see things and get it resolved. But you know, there's some crafty people out there that also know the laws, and we have to abide by them. My attorneys, we've got tons of attorneys that work for us that keep us on the strict and narrow. We would love to be able to resolve all your problems, but sometimes our hands are just tied. We are pretty creative.
Hang on.
You change the state law. Until that happens, they're tied. So that's correct. And our lawyers are subject to the rules of the Florida Bar, and pursuant to that, they have to follow. Excuse me, I'm talking.
Hold on.
They have to follow
He's speaking right
laws.
now. Just hold that until, and you can ask your questions.
We're following the laws. That's what we have to follow. There's no other clearer way I can say that.
Yeah.
So if you don't like the laws, you got to lobby Tallahassee to change the laws, because we're tasked with following them, and we're going to do that 100%.
And I'll add to that. John and Dwayne can't even look through a window without the consent of the unit owner. Is that correct, Director? Even through a window.
You got to be in a. It gets a little technical. You got to be in a place where you're authorized to be, but you can't invade the reasonable expectation of privacy, and that's on a case-by-case basis where the lawyers get to decide.
Understood. Next question.
Have a good day, sir.
I have a question. I'm over here, up here. Anyway, we have a condo in our unit that has a permit, and the permit states to refurbish the bathroom and kitchen. So upon inspecting it, we saw that everything in the apartment is down, from walls to the kitchen to the bathroom. What's happening with that? Do they need licensed plumbers? We have no licenses. We only have a permit, and I have architecture plans stating that everything's being taken down. But we're a lame person. We don't know anything. So do we need contractors, licensed contractors for the plumbing, the electric? Nothing is on the permit. The permit says refurbished kitchen and bathroom. That's it.
Okay, so what do the plans show? There should be an approved set of plans that goes with that. Typically, there's a very limited number of characters we can put on the face of the permit, so we can't describe everything that people are doing.
Okay, so the permit says the wall in the kitchen is down, the co-kitchen is from one wall to the other wall,
Right.
the bathroom, everything is broken down,
And-
nobody is in.
Well, what happens is it's not unusual for folks to do a little more work than what they started out talking about.
We took it down to the studs on the walls, there's nothing.
I'm not sure what you're asking. I mean, my point is, if you're exceeding the scope, refurbishing your kitchen, if you take it down to the studs, that's a permit. We would need to inspect that, because in many cases, those walls are fire separation walls between adjacent units. So we want to make sure that the fire ratings go back in. Fire department gets involved. If you're messing with the electric in the wall, plumbing, that all takes permits. That's different licenses. It is uncommon for one contractor to have all those licenses. But it is also, let me say this, it is also somewhat common for a contractor, or an unscrupulous contractor, I should probably say, to go out and basically do work beyond the scope of license.
Okay, so do we have to ask anybody that goes into the apartment, plumber, electrician, for their license?
You should. Anybody's performing work in your building, if you're responsible, if you're the POA, then my answer is yes, you should be asking to see a permit, not a license. If you ask to see a permit, there's a guarantee that there's a license, and that the folks behind me have checked the insurance amounts, have checked the general liability, everything that's out there to protect the public. But the reality is, if you don't ask to see a permit for it, and they can show you a sub-permit. If it's electric or plumbing, there's a sub-permit that we produce, that the contractor should be able to produce.
Okay, I think the question being, should it be on the general contractor's permit, or should they be individual permits that we must see?
There are individual permits, and you can see them in the database if you go to the portal. I just tried to pull up that other permit that she mentioned with that address on, Dover C. I couldn't find a permit. But the reality is, if you have a phone, you can look that up and see what's there, or you can email me, or you can call us, and we'll look at anything. Our portal is totally transparent. You can see every permit we issued with one important exception. If the record is an exempted record under Florida law, belongs to a former judge or a former law enforcement officer, you won't be able to see permits. You won't be able to see that address.
Okay, also what I'm hearing here, Mr. Stone, is also a condominium administration problem. I'm hearing that interior walls have been removed. That's condominium common element. You need to speak to your lawyer about that. That kind of thing can be done completely safely and permittable and inspectable, but it doesn't mean that it's according to your bylaws, and it's up to you and your board to make that happen. All right. Next question.
Just a quick, it's not really a question, it's just, listen, the scenarios are someone buys a unit, the contractor shows up, puts paper on the window, changes the locks, you hear jackhammers. Call code, nothing can be done. I mean, what do? We just sit by. And you know, we're not police. We're volunteers in every one of these buildings, and we're trying to do the right thing. And we're not getting any kind of backup other than call a lawyer. By the time the lawyer addresses this stuff, it's, you know, you're putting the horse out now, shutting the barn door. Come on. You know, really, the minute the contractor shows up, he goes in and that doors are locked, and we have the right, I understand, the boards hold the keys to all the units in case of flood, fire, whatever. So we have a right to say, hey, I hear a jackhammer in there. Don't I have the right to go in there and say, what's up, guys?
Well, let me just say this real quick. You have to understand that everybody that lives here has what they call a right to privacy. Okay, we're an enforcement arm here, so we have to give that Fourth Amendment right to privacy. Sure. So at the end of the day, I have to constantly ask myself, you know, whenever I'm doing something, does somebody have an expectation of privacy here? And if we're violating that, I'm breaking the law. Okay, so whenever it comes down to, we have a lot of different ways that we can either get into one of these buildings, or if you guys are more than willing to take photos and send them to us, we can't use them. We can use them in court, but only if you stand up and say, I took them at this time, this date, standing here, and this was the location. But here's the thing, is that we're in a situation where if somebody doesn't fix this stuff, all right, and we cite them and they end up in a hearing status, we're liening a property, okay? We can take somebody's property away from them at that point. So we're really selective on how we're going to address these things. Preferably, code enforcement, if we see violations, we're to cite the violations that we see. And we're under strict.
Well, listen, I understand everyone's entitled to their privacy, not a problem. But when the privacy is being disrupted by hammers and cracks in walls and buildings, and people are being dislocated out of their homes of 20 years.
But that creates a completely different situation.
I get that.
If there's a situation where there's a safety violation or something like that, it changes the way that we do our job completely.
And remember, each of us in our documents has language that allows the board with reasonable notice to enter an apartment for purposes of inspection.
And understand what reasonable notice is, because you have to notify the homeowner that you're going to enter that property at a certain date and time. And you have to give them that time to do so.
If they live in New York or another state and you see water dripping, you have the right to go in there as a board member and make sure there's no more damage being done.
That would become an emergency at that point.
Fire, flood, or blood. That's what an emergency is. But we can't.
Okay, my next question. First, I have 3 questions, but just one remark. As insurance professional, I recommend that everybody who gets the sheet from the contractor to put the name of the association on his insurance, and they will do it for the duration of the work, because the homeowner's insurance won't cover you, and you will be sued. Okay, my first question is, what is, when a contractor says that he's bonded, what does that mean? I have 3 questions. You want them all at once? Okay, the second one, We had a case that we had 4 owners already that bought one apartment, and when he wanted to do something new, they came up with an open violation from 1981. Now, the question is, why is this happen, and why is it from 40 years for the new owner? They had 4 owners already before them. Why is it open for 40 years? And the last one is that 101% of the people in Florida has those fans that they take the electricity from the kitchen. Is that a violation? And can it be to get a permit for this? The one in the living room.
Well, let me address the first one. I've never, at least in 2020, addressed a 1981 violation. That has to do with code enforcement. Now, you have to be talking about maybe an expired permit, possibly, something like that. And we cite those occasionally, depending upon the situation. When you're talking about moving electrical around, well, at the end of the day, you have to have a licensed individual do your work, okay? Depending upon what you're doing. I mean, if this is a new connection to...
Yeah, John was handling it. It's apartment 130 in Cambridge F.
Well, if it's a new connection that's requiring a new outlet or a new junction box or something like that, it would require a permit. So all I can suggest is that you contact code enforcement and you put a complaint in on it.
And to also answer the question regarding the expired permits, when you purchase a property, and this is very good for everyone to know, a lot of people don't do an actual permit search to see if the permits have expired. You can come to our office for a minimal fee, and you can research if there's outstanding code issues, liens, and if there's expired permits. And you can address that right up front. Most people don't do that, and then that's why we run into 20,000 expired permits in the county, because they've never been addressed. And then several owners down the road, one person actually really does the due diligence, figures it out, and now we've got to figure out what was done in 1980, how do we undo it, is it even still there, and it creates a nightmare for Doug, and he gets even more gray hair. So just do the diligence up front, and you'll save a lot of issues.
What about the bonded? What is the bonded?
Jeremy can speak to that. Typically, bonded means they're insured. If they got a license, he can bring up all those records and find out if it's actually legitimate or not.
Yes. You guys are our eyes and ears out there, especially the Architectural Review Board. You guys check out the contracts, verify that this is a licensed contractor doing this. If you're unsure, or if your board isn't doing that, and you see that a contractor is out there you suspect to be unlicensed, give our office a call. We don't have many investigators, but we're darn good at it. Going out there on what we call hot calls, we'll go out there and we'll see what's going on, we'll assess, we'll take some photos, we'll talk to the contractor and evaluate if they're licensed or not. Code enforcement also will work in conjunction, we'll verify if there's a permit on site. So, but we can't be everywhere all the time. So you guys are our eyes and ears out there. Give us a call, all right?
Not long ago, I went to code enforcement because someone was taking down a wall and I was concerning about a bearing wall. Code enforcement took my complaint. I was never contacted back from code enforcement to find out the results of my complaint. Is this common that when a person makes a complaint, it goes to code enforcement and they never contact the complainant to find out the results?
No. Actually, we require our officers to contact the complainant in the beginning of this. However, understand that we have individuals that do take these complaints for us, and either it wasn't, if they didn't contact you, then it may have not been conveyed, the phone number or what have you. It's, we can get in touch with you by way of email or phoning you, or if you want us to meet with you, we can meet with you also. But generally, John Gennady is doing this area, so, and he contacts pretty much everybody that he...
Well, I wasn't contacted.
Okay, but also not making
record.
excuses. Last year we had 13,000 complaints, so we're busy. We'll do the best we can and get
But-
John's information, and he's got a cell phone. You can text him, call him, email him, and
Okay.
if he,
Thank
that
you.
does-
We actually do reviews, monthly reviews prior to going to hearings and stuff like that, and that's the one thing that the director and the code manager do. They sit down, and the first thing that Rick does, he's a stickler on this. He sits down, he wants to know if you spoke with him, and the next question to the code officer is if they didn't speak with the complainant is why. You know, a lot of the reasons is there's not information in there for that, but, you know, we're working on getting all that tightened up one way or another. But I would say that we speak to 99% of our complainants now.
Got one, and then you next. I can tell you that when, and I'm a frequent complainer, when I don't get a call back, I sent a simple email to PZB Code, please provide an update on the following complaint number. And I always get an answer back. Often the answer is, the case is closed. So that's it. You're next. All right, got one on this side.
Thank you. Thank you for this enormous amount of information. Would it be possible for you to publish your PowerPoint presentation so we can look at it again?
Actually, yes, because we
Thank you.
have, from my understanding, it's being videotaped.
Yes, this is being videotaped. It will be on Channel 63.
There you go.
Okay, you're good?
Yeah, wait a minute. Hi, thank you for coming. However, I am sure that a lot of people here feel the same sense of frustration, even to the point of anger. We're giving all this information, yet the problem we're all facing is that there is a growing number of people who think that rules mean nothing and they can be easily broken. And when we try to find a way to stop it, we're now being told basically that there are so many things in our way that we may as well just go and do what my mother used to say, you know, go bang your head against the wall, you'll get the same result. Isn't there a way that we can forestall this from even beginning? Is there a way we can say, you may not do any construction at all, and then when we know that they're violating it, never mind that they're away and there's a contractor in there and they change the thing because they're clever enough to do this. Is there a way that we can say, you violated the agreement that we had with you regarding this construction, therefore you are in violation of the Housing Association's rules and you must stop, period. That's it.
I would say that that would be a bylaw change that you guys would have to have, that the county cannot enforce that.
So if we have that bylaw,
If somebody puts a permit in to do something, we treat them just like anybody else.
okay, so can we, from UCO, can we have an idea how to do those bylaws, those who don't have it?
Look, your bylaws all are essentially the same in this regard. Any alteration, a significant alteration or addition to common element almost always requires not only prior board permission, but also a membership vote. If your documents are silent, I think it goes to statute, which is 75%. My building is 2/3. When you're dealing with a wall down, you're dealing with association common element. It's time to go to your property manager and get a violation letter sent out to get it on record. And then the next thing is, I'm sorry, but you need to talk to your attorney. That's just like any other business. You got to have a lawyer on staff.
Here's some food for thought on that, and, you know, I had to show my ID to get into the gate here. Perhaps, you know, these unlicensed contractors
Dan, it's not your time yet. Just give it a minute.
These unlicensed contractors have to come through your gates. Perhaps there's some sort of rule you guys could require that if a contractor's coming, they need to show what unit they're going to, show a license, show a permit, something to that effect, and that maybe...
Yes, Dwayne and John and I have been discussing this. One of the things that UCO is going to start cooperating on is giving them access to our entry logs and video at the gates. So when some guy starts taking down a wall and you guys discover it, we can help with who the person is and go after the contractor themselves. So we're gonna help with this.
Right, and I don't want to make it too difficult, but Doug showed on his phone, you could look up the permit history really easily. So your guys at the front gate, even if the guy says, oh, I don't even have the permit with me, but I promise I have it, type in the address, and it'll show if it's valid, not valid, et cetera, et cetera. So that's another method of just controlling these unlicensed folks from coming in and damaging your community.
One of the things I've been thinking about is, I use that app all day long. As people lie to me, I'm, showing them that, they're full of you-know-what. But we can teach you all how to use that app. It's insanely easy. I wish we had this when I was back home. Somebody says they have a permit, you can look it up right in front of them. And if it's not there, it's not there. It's that simple.
So, hi, I'm Susan Kanzow. I am the infamous president of Dover that one of my unit owners talked about. We have 4 stories. We have 240 units. What we have that I think is greatly needed is a packet of any renovation that takes place. I didn't create this. It's been modified throughout the years, but it is immensely helpful. It identifies, even if there's a general contractor, who is their electrician, what's their telephone number, what's the plumber, what's their telephone number, and it breaks it all down. It identifies exactly the work that's going to be accomplished, and what we require is protection of the front walk, because like tile removal is a mess. And our sidewalks are coated, and we make sure that they are accountable to have it clean. We also require a monetary deposit that, depending upon the level of work, if we have to clean up or there's any damage done, that deposit is there to help in the midst of that discussion. I can share these forms with Donald if he would like to have any of the other unit owners, any of the other units like to follow, because I've been president going on almost 2 years, and I can tell you how immensely helpful these have been. Now, we then require in the window our Dover seal that has a date on it. It indicates when it started, who's been involved, and then the permit packet is listed there as well. I can tell you the permit packet is wonderful, but confusing as all get out. So I have to scan mine to some of my immensely educated board members who then can look over my shoulder and tell me, this is okay, this is good, or you need additional information. So we have an ongoing communication that isn't always to all the unit owners. I have on occasion had a unit owner misrepresent who they are, walk into a construction site, identify themselves as me, and start taking pictures to provide evidence of questions that they have. I highly, highly recommend not getting into that murkiness. If you have, go to your board, go to the people, and if they say it's being taken care of, I can tell you there's probably a dialogue going on. My question to you is, I've had it happen now 3 times. What if there was unpermitted work being done, and it's all done and completed? Now a sale is going through, or additional renovation is going through, but there was work within the condo that was unpermitted. Where do we go from here? My form doesn't help with that.
So if it's unpermitted work and you say it's going through sale and that's when it comes up, so then you've essentially got clouded title, don't buy it. Or tell the person that you're buying it from to reduce the price, because you're going to have to go back in and deal with Doug and get it all permitted after the fact. It would just be you'd contact John and say, John, looks like we've got some work done illegally, and he'll start the process and put you together with Doug's crew and try get it legitimized. I mean, at the end of the day, we want everything done properly, done right, and legitimate and safe. Sometimes I know it's a hassle and it's difficult, but at the end of the day, that it makes it much better and makes your units much more valuable when you can actually sell it, and when someone does look for permits, they can see, wow, everything was done correctly. And then Rick brought up a good point with insurance not paying out if something happens. Trust me, that's the first thing they jump on is, nope, we're not paying, no permit. So that's immensely helpful, and we want everything done properly. And I wish people would just do it properly right in the beginning, because we wouldn't have all of these nightmares. And frankly, also another thing just to be aware of, contractors will come to you and say, hey, go do an owner-builder permit. It'll save you some fees, and it'll save you money, and it's way easy. And Doug's shaking his head down there, because don't do that. Unless you know, because how the law reads, it means you know exactly what you're doing. And when you come to our counter, that means you know what you're doing. And our staff, we're so busy, we don't have the time to, and we shouldn't really be doing it, walk a owner builder that doesn't qualify as an owner builder through. So that's a big alarm bell that goes off when a contractor comes to you folks and says, just go pull your own permit and I'll do the work. It's not a problem. Have him do it, because he needs to know the hows and whys, and Doug can probably elaborate on some of the horror stories we deal with these owner builders.
Yeah, odds are if they're asking you to pull the permit, owner builder, they're not a licensed contractor. Oh yeah, and it's cheaper, right? It's a lot cheaper that way because they don't have any insurance and somebody gets hurt or they destroy something in the building, then who's going to end up holding the bag? You know, the customer is going to hold the bag. Use this. You can look at all the tabs you got there across the top. You can put in contractor and you can see how many permits they got. Now, the bad part is this limits you to 3,000 answers. So if the contractor has more than 3,000 entries, you're not going to be able to see that. But this system is amazingly powerful. You can look by contractor, you can look by permit number, you can look by address. Pull up your address, pull up the neighbor's unit. You know, you could look at the one, what was the one we were talking about earlier? Does everybody want to look at it? 421, is that what you said?
441.
It's public
I'm just
record.
saying, if you wanted to.
It's all public information.
Public record.
Anybody can look at this.
The
So it's
more I
not
watch
private.
this, the more I'm thinking we should bring that in. We bring you guys all in and show you all how to use it. It'll take an hour. It'll make you into a god, I promise you. Rhoda.
And then call us. Go for it.
Hello there. On the thing about going into people's apartments, it's in our declaration that we hold the key to every unit. We don't go in the middle of the night, but say between 9 and 5, we are allowed to go in. We had a unit owner that didn't like anyone having the key.
Yeah.
So he changed the locks. Well, we got a locksmith, and then we changed it and kept the key. Yes.
The county's not going to get involved in that.
Yeah,
I have another question.
Yeah, just an important point on that. There's case law all over the country, and including in West Palm Beach, where I used to work. We can't go in with you. You have the right to go in. You have more power than we do as the POA. And Plainview Doctrine, they were talking about a little while ago, you can't open the door and we look through it. There was a case like that in West Palm Beach that the city got beat down pretty hard in the court. So you got to understand our limitations are very serious.
Okay. I have one more question. What is an Insta-Hot water heater? Is that like a tankless?
Yes.
Yeah, instantaneous.
So is that something that would not be a good idea to do tankless? Is that what you said?
In some cases, we can permit them. The problem that you have is the existing wiring in general terms for your unit is a number 10 wire, which is limited to 30 amps on a breaker. The instantaneous heaters are typically around 60 amps. They're closer to like a heat strip that would go into an air handler for heating a whole house. So they take way more current. So that's the problem with instantaneous water heaters or tankless. People say, yeah, I can get you one, but the problem is the system may not have the ampacity to do it. And if you have, she was talking about 100 units. If you have 100 units, I don't know if the service capacity for the building would allow all 100 owners to do that. So then which owners are allowed to have them? The first 30? I mean, it creates a whole issue for us in permitting. We will generally not permit them unless the electrician can do a calculation or an electrical engineer can calculate the whole service on the building and show us that it can have an Insta-Hot for everybody.
Jerry.
Yeah, okay. I diligently read Donald's weekly report that he sends out to all the owners. And I also believe in speaking to our attorney. And basically what I did, and this, I'm just making a comment, is that based on what Donald had written, I sent the bullet list out to all my owners, what has to be done when they want to renovate or remodel their apartment. This way I have a paper trail, And also, they will acknowledge to me that they acknowledge to me that they received this letter, which was done. And I think it makes things maybe a little bit more easier if they know beforehand, this is what you have to do in order to renovate or to remodel. They can't come back to me later on and say, well, I didn't know that. I didn't know you have to do that. I put it in writing. I put it to all the owners in the building, and I received messages from almost all of them. We have received your letter and acknowledge it.
If I may just ask a quick question, some people have to leave, and they've been asking where they can obtain business cards for any or all of you, as might be necessary. They've already checked out front, and there are none located there.
Okay. I guess what we could do in that case is at your next UCO meeting, we can provide you some. We brought quite a bit of them, but apparently they're gone.
Thank you. Okay.
Jeremy's going to throw some out there for contract search. He's got some left.
All righty, I just made a comment. I was told several years ago that no washer, dryers, or the instant hot tanks in any of the units in Century Village, period, because it's all aluminum wiring and they cannot handle it. So that should really be a statement that everybody should understand. You just can't do it. My question to you folks is, we were looking and trying to do it the right way. Some renovations in our kitchen, and I went to a firm, and they basically sent a letter back stating, we can't say if your building is a non-weight bearing or a full weight bearing, but if you would send us the plans, we'll take a look at them. I have been trying to search. Our building association was built in 1974. I cannot find the plans. They're willing to help, but where do I find these?
Ask John Gennady, and he'll go to our records department and see if we actually even have them. We have off-site warehouses that we've archived tons of stuff. Typically, we do have them, and if they're scanned in, we might be able to even just look it up right here, right now, if they've been scanned in our system. We've got a massive backlog. We're trying to scan every single plan, permit, every document, so it's all online, so anyone can have access to everything that we have. But you can imagine when we're issuing 80,000 permits a year, it's a lot of data. But speak to John, and he'll be able to put you in the right place.
It's
Don.
sometimes in the older communities, when they build several buildings that are the same, they submit one set of plans for all the buildings. So the original plans may be under the original building that was built, but it still matches the rest of the buildings. Sometimes it's hard to locate it because of that.
Hey, Don, we got time for one more question.
Okay, Belinda, go for it.
Okay. Hi. I got a question. When a construction company has a permit up there, but they start doing the work, but the permit is under another contractor that was no longer under under the owner's name, and they went ahead and started doing the work under that contractor's name until I looked into it and saw that that contractor is not the contractor to doing that project. Would that be investigated? I mean, they did stop, and then they finally, about 2 weeks later or 3 weeks later, I don't know how long it took them to change over to the correct contractor's name. Will that be investigated, that they started working under a contractor that wasn't contracted for the project?
You can certainly give us a call, and we'll look into it. I can't say, based on that, if there's a violation or not, but you heard us talk about the issue of aiding and abetting with contractors pulling permits for unlicensed contractors. Don't know if that's going on, but we can look into it and see whether or not there is a problem.
Okay, one thing I learned about county meetings is the concept of the hard stop, and I believe we're coming up on our 12 o'clock hard stop.
Don, if I can just add to that.
Of course, Director.
On your buildings, everything here, if you have a general contractor or a building contractor, you can't use a residential contractor because everything is more than a one or two family. they have to use licensed subs. They cannot hire an unlicensed sub. So if you got a GC or a BC and they hire somebody different to do the work, that's legal. Those guys can investigate and they'll probably dismiss it. Show me who's working there. But if they're hiring an unlicensed person, that's a violation.
Just to chime in that it wasn't long ago that we caught an unlicensed sub here. The association contracted with a contractor, and then they subbed out the work to an unlicensed roofing contractor. So we handled by issuing citations, referring to DBPR, and got the correct people doing the job. So certainly a red flag is there a permit being pulled? Don't go for the bait and switch. Well, the contractor's telling me I could save some money by pulling the permit myself. No, you're hiring the contractor, and the onus will be on them because they're the responsible contractor, or they should be.
All right, guys, thank you very much for coming. This was a very productive meeting. And thank you to the county staff.
Thank you for hosting us, Don.
Thank you. You represented us well. Quite all right. Here's your stuff.
Right, exactly.
Excellent job, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Those are always fun. How are you, sir? Yeah. Go down this way. Thank you so much. No, you're welcome.